the rest of it was just horror. You know, I couldn't even begin to imagine how I could ever lead any kind of meaningful existence in this condition, you know, without hands and feet ever again. And I must admit, there were times when I really felt I would have been just better off dying up there on the mountain summit alongside my friend Jamie, rather than coming down to face a life like this. So it was in January 1999 that the pair of us went to climb this mountain called Les Droites, which is in the Mont Blanc massif of the Alps. And we arrived in Chamonix to find perfect conditions. It was blue skies, sunshine, there was great forecast, and we leapt at the chance to tackle this incredible climb. It was on the second day of our climb, as we were just approaching the summit of the mountain, having nearly made the successful ascent, that our luck started to change when suddenly out of nowhere this massive storm blew up, and this storm just swept in out of nowhere and engulfed us. So suddenly, from being relatively enjoyable climbing, we were really fighting for our lives. We were horrendous conditions, high winds, snow, avalanches thundering down all around us. And we realised that our best option at this point was just to make the last couple of 100 metres to the summit, spend the night there where we would be safe from the avalanches, and then descend the next morning once the storm had all blown over. We woke up the next morning to find the storm was still raging on. We took the decision to wait, to sit it out. But we ended up stuck on that mountain summit at the full force of the elements for a total of 5 days and 5 nights. And we were enduring temperatures that plummeted as low as -30 degrees C. We were absolutely determined that we were going to make it. You know, there was no room for giving up hope in this situation. When you're on the edge of survival like that, the one thing that keeps you going is hope. It was during the 5th and final terrible night that we did ultimately succumb and lose our battle for survival. And it was Jamie Fisher who, for whatever reason, I don't know, just began to fade faster than me. He just became confused, became more and more delirious, eventually became unconscious, and ultimately just stopped moving altogether. I, at that point, was also hypothermic. I was still conscious, but I knew now that this was the end, that it was the end for my friend Jamie. It was the end for me too. There was now no way I was getting off this mountain alive. I looked down and my hands and feet were literally frozen solid, you know, like blocks of ice. When I knocked them together, they just went dunk. And at that point I knew, well, there's nothing I can even do to help myself now. So it was just a case of waiting for the end. I remember just sitting there, facing into the pitch black, icy cold wind, and closing my eyes and thinking that, you know, I'll just drift off out of consciousness and never wake up again. I opened my eyes again and I was still there. The first thing that I saw was the first rays of sunshine as they began to light up all the mountain peaks all around me. It seemed like only moments later I heard that unmistakable thud, 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 thud of the rescue helicopter as it came, and this time I knew that somehow they were going to get me out of there. The helicopter then just made one pass straight over the mountain summit, trailing beneath it this 90 metres of line with a hook on the end. And the pilot managed to guide it with such precision that my rescuer on the ground was able to reach up with his hand, catch this hook. As it swung past, then he just clipped it straight onto my harness, and instantly I was yanked off the mountain. I was just instantly spinning 1,000 metres above the glacier in space. And I remember thinking, well, I've made it. I've been rescued. I'm gonna live. But I knew also that in no way was this a happy ending, and that I was returning to a very, very different world to the one I'd left behind just a week previously. When they brought me around, I looked down my hospital bed and I saw, for the first time, I saw that where my hands and feet had previously been were now only neatly bandaged stumps. So those were dark, dark days indeed, and very confusing and frightening, and just complete emotional turmoil. The first year after the accident was just an incredible learning experience. It was, a very, very hard time in my life. How could it not be? My life had been turned upside down. In fact, it felt at the beginning like my whole life had just been swept away from me, and I was unable to do anything for myself whatsoever. Every day I was learning to do something new. Every day I was learning to brush my teeth, or to hold a glass, or pull on a t-shirt. Every day was constantly learning new stuff, learning to put back all the pieces of my life together again. So in many ways it was an incredible experience. It was one of the most exciting and rich and rewarding times in my life. For that reason, that every day I would go to bed having managed to do something that I couldn't do the day before. And I was really struggling to come to terms with what had happened to Jamie, with his sudden and tragic, unexpected loss. But actually it was through thinking about him that I started learning to come to terms with what had happened, because it was through thinking about him and also talking about him that I came to realise that really the most important thing here was that I was still alive. I'd been given a second chance. And Jamie, who had so tragically died up there on the mountain, hadn't been as lucky as me, hadn't been as so fortunate, hadn't been given that second chance. And so I made up my mind that I very much owed it to him, as much as I owed it to everyone who'd fought so hard to save me, as much as I owed it to myself just to make the most of this second chance, just to give it a go, to find out what was possible without hands and feet, and just to treat it like my next big challenge, the next big mountain that I had to climb. And that's what I resolved I was going to do. I just made up my mind that this was going to be the low point in my life, and every day from this day on I was somehow going to get better. I was somehow going to improve. I had these great prosthetic legs made for me by the National Health, and I was getting stronger and stronger on them by the day. And the only other thing was balance. I was struggling with my balance because you're walking on two metal legs. So I got these specialized walking sticks made for me, these like hiking sticks that fit on my arms, and that cracked it straight away. And I realized then that all these simple solutions are out there. Every problem I was facing most likely had a really simple solution that was right in front of my nose, and I just had to look for it and persevere and find new ways of taking on these challenges. And so I did Ben Nevis. I thought, well, what's next? Maybe it's time to complete the circle and return to the Alps again. At first, I didn't even dare to dream that I could climb a mountain like the Matterhorn without hands and feet. It's just one of the most iconic mountains in the world. It is just stunning, but it is also really quite difficult, even by modern standards, to climb. And what's more, there's no easy way off the back. You've got to climb back down all the way you came and get off safely. Getting onto the top was incredible. It had taken 4 or 5 years of effort to get to this point, and I remember those last few steps, and as you come up the last snowy slopes, the ridge in front of you narrows until it's literally just a snowy crest with like a 2,000 meter drop either side of you. You just feel like you've got the world beneath your feet. It was just incredible. I couldn't believe that it was actually real. I am disabled. I can't get away from that. I've got no hands and no feet. That makes me a disabled person, but it's not the defining attribute of who I am. It doesn't define who I am. I think if there's one thing I've learned through all this, is that everybody has great strength within them. Everybody has enormous potential. Sometimes it takes great adversity to bring that potential out, but it doesn't have to be that way if you can learn to make the most of what you have rather than worrying about what you don't have, if you can learn to make the most of all the incredible people around you have rather than complaining about what they don't have, and if you can learn to do that crucial thing, just to believe in yourself, you really can achieve absolutely anything.